am Femi Okay.
And I'm Malika Bilal. Is there a dark side to the world of social media influencers?
Is that a trick question? Today, the stream examines the power and the ethics behind the insta-famous and some other media messengers.
I'm Julian Jensen. I'm a social media entrepreneur, and I'm in the stream.
British social media vlogger Elle Darby unleashed a firestorm of controversy this year when she emailed a Dublin hotel owner asking for a little quid pro quo. In exchange for a free stay over Valentine's Day weekend, Darby would give the hotel publicity by posting about the trip on her social media channels. It was an offer the hotel's owner scathingly declined in an email to Darby, which he then posted to Facebook. As you might imagine, the post went viral and hashtag Bloggergate ensued. Joining us to talk about this and the role of social media influencers, we have in California, Heidi Nazaruddin. She's a social media influencer with over 475,000 Instagram followers. In Perth, Australia, Ethan Morrell, the social media influencer and YouTube vlogger who created the Aussie Man Reviews. He has more than 1.8 million subscribers. In London, Serena Bergman, she's a journalist who writes about media advertising and offers commentary on social media influencers. And in New York, we have Brittany Hennessy, author of the forthcoming book, Influencer, Building Your Personal Brand in the Age of Social Media.
Welcome to the stream, everyone. I want to start on my laptop with a tweet from someone who really showcases that this is a global conversation. This is Alexander out of Lusaka, Zambia. He says, in my area, there is a retired doctor who's now a social media influencer. He's always talking about how to stay healthy. He believes in natural medicine, and he's also always encouraging people to use natural methods. So we dug around a little and found his account. This is Dr. Wezi PM Sankutu on Facebook. You can see it there. I will persist until I succeed. That's just one of the pictures he's got up on that account. Ethan, this is one person's idea of a good social media influencer. What is it that makes you a good influencer?
I don't really think of myself too much as an influencer, and I don't know how much influence I have some days. To be honest, it takes a while. Like I didn't start Aussie Man Reviews wanting to be influential. I started it because I like comedy and I wanted to make comedy videos, and it grew from there. And then that world starts to creep in on you, whether it's sponsored posts and business opportunities and all of that. As it grows, you start getting approached by lots of different companies, and the word influencer gets used. So I kind of just discovered it, and maybe I just haven't taken it that seriously, and maybe that makes me good at it. I think you gotta work with brands that match your brand. You know, it's got to add up, and you got to be able to care about the brands that you work with if you're doing a sponsored video or a sponsored post.
Ethan,
I think that's really important.
I'm going to give people a little taste of what you do, minus some of the fruity language. Here is your review of the iPhone 10. Have a look.
Radically new cameras. It's our goal to make sure every professional photographer goes out of business in 10 years. Just bloody do it yourself at every wedding. Oh, one more thing. There's one more thing. It's a dinosaur machine. It can make dinosaurs. Whoa, have we learnt nothing from Jurassic Park though? Holy dooly. This advert has made me flushed. iPhone X, November 3, there's an apple, an alien. Meanwhile, the iPhone 8 still looks like Wally. That's fine. The iPhone 7 looked like Wally. The iPhone 8 looks like Wally. We love Wally.
Heidi, you are amused by that. At what moment did you think, now I'm influencing people, I can actually hold that title as a social media influencer? When did you cross the line?
For me, it was a gradual thing. I didn't just wake up one day like, I'm going to be an influencer. I started writing online 7 years ago, and I guess a lot of people resonated with what I was writing, and it was an incremental thing. And I think I didn't use the phrase influencer myself until people started branding me as such. And I think it's just an easier way to say what I do, which is I have a large presence online, and I do use my online platform to talk about things that I love and I believe in. So in that sense, yes, I use the word influencer because I know that I have a large platform and people resonate with some of the things that I do.
So I go to you and you're giving me what as a follower? What do I get out of following you, Heidi?
I feel a lot of people, and I got this from my followers as well, what they like is inspiration, because my whole thing is I am a businesswoman. I own a social media agency. I own other businesses, but I'm also very visible online. And I give them a sort of glimpse into my world of what, a boss lady who's just jet setting around the world, working, having a staff and looking fabulous doing it, how that would, sort of look like. And a lot of people actually told me they are motivated when they look at me, like, look at her. She moved to LA, and built this empire, and she looks great most of the time. Sometimes I don't, but and I give them tips on how to, create a successful life themselves and look good doing it. And I think people resonate with that.
Serena, are these real jobs?
Of course they're real jobs. There's no such thing as a real and a not real job. I think if you're doing something every day and you're working hard at it, that's your job. I think it's not particularly helpful to think about things in those terms. I don't think the term influencer is particularly helpful either. And it definitely makes that distinction between what traditional celebrities have done and what a new breed of internet celebrity does. And that's what the term influencer implies. I do think it's somewhat descriptive, but I think it makes it seem like it's too far removed from what we've always had, which is the idea that there are certain people who have jobs, who have a high profile within those jobs, and therefore people look up to them and are interested in buying into their brand of lifestyle in some way. That's definitely not new. But because we call them influencers and because they exist on the internet, it's something people really struggle to get their head around.
Ethan, internet celebrity, will you own that title? You're comfortable with that?
Sure.
What makes a good one?
What makes a good internet celebrity?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I don't know. I'm discovering it. I mean, yeah, I'm not good with titles. What we're talking about there, just trying to clearly define influencer or pin it down. It is kind of vague and ambiguous and could mean lots of things. It seems like a marketing buzzword. Like viral.
I mean, surely
there's
no such thing.
Say it again, Serena.
I would say there's no such thing as a good influencer anymore. There's such thing as a good celebrity. There are people who are great at comedy, people who are great at creating videos, at videography, at sound, at special effects. There are people whose personality in some way really attracts others, and that's what everyone's individually good at. I don't think there's such a thing as a good influencer in and of itself. An influencer is just something that comes from the things that you are good at.
Yeah.
So I want to bring
That's what I'm trying to say.
And I hear you there, Ethan. I want to bring in one other perspective. This is via YouTube Live, where people are watching us. Passy's perspective, he writes, you can't get exposure unless you pay for likes and views. Talking about some of the challenges to this world of influence. Heidi, I'm wondering on your perspective on this. The paying for likes and views, it could mean buying followers. It could mean promoting your own posts to make sure they show up within the algorithms on Instagram and Facebook. Where do you fall in this?
I would like to answer to his comment. I would like to say yes and no. No, because if you don't have good content, you can boost the heck out of it. It's not going to resonate. So you can't make something come alive when it's dead. And yes, in terms of there are, for example, Facebook, organic reach is very low, so you do need to boost your content to get those eyeballs or that reach. But it's not a starting point. If you have great content and you have, you're consistently posting, you don't need a lot of ad spend. And buying likes and I don't know, comments, it's a thing, but most brands are savvy enough to see when someone's doing it. And also there's so many dashboards and things you can do to find out in literally 5 seconds to know whether someone or an influencer is doing that. So it's not really, the biggest problem.
The question about ethics and being an influencer or an online celebrity has popped up with Elle Darby asking for that trip in Dublin. And then when that whole thing blew up, she explained what it is she does and what her value is. Have a look.
I decided to contact some hotels asking if they would like to collaborate. I basically I go visit them, I stay in the hotel, I feature them on vlogs, I put them on my Instagram, I talk about the hotel, I write a review, whatever, in return for a discounted or complimentary stay, because that same hotel would not be able to go to a magazine or to a billboard or to a television advert for a free review in something that could potentially be bringing them a lot more business. I feel so disgusting having to say this. I feel so vile, and it makes me kind of feel sick. But as a 22-year-old girl who's running her own business from her home, I don't feel like I did anything wrong in that.
Let me just bring in Brittany. Brittany, you look for young people like Elle Darby to see if you can match them up with brands. In terms of this ethical question, was there anything that Elle did, or when you're going out as a social influencer to say, I want to work with you as a brand, was there anything that went wrong in that interaction?
You know, it's difficult to say because I can't see the email that she sent. I couldn't hear her tone. And when you're dealing with influencers, it's all about the way you ask. You can ask for anything. You can ask for a lot of money, a free stay, a helicopter ride. It's all about how you ask. And so without that information, it's difficult to say if she did something wrong. But in general, asking brands to collaborate is how these influencers get a lot of their deals and how they find brands that will work with them. So the saying is closed mouths don't get fed. And if she wanted to collaborate with this hotel, the best way to do that is to just reach out now.
And Brittany,
I actually saw her email, and I thought there was nothing wrong. I read her email, and I thought she was completely, doing the right thing. So I thought the property owner was maybe misinformed on how things work, or did not realize, that's actually very common. And I think it's a miscommunication that blew up.
So I hear you, Heidi, about maybe he just didn't understand how this works.
Yeah.
There's someone on Twitter who says, he probably would agree with that viewpoint, because he says, more than just asking, influencers need to demand. Donald says, it's now accepted by global companies, this is his view, that one who has over 3,000 followers on any social media is a social media influencer. And such brand outreach can be monetized. So don't endorse any business unless you're paid or you don't need the money. Don't be heard saying that you are poor. He's coming to us from Kenya. He also writes, when someone asked him, what if a company tags you or follows you or comments on something on your wall or your post? Donald says, then send them an invoice. Minimum payment is US $500 for tagging to a business or a company. Ethan, I can see you chuckling there. Send them an invoice if they like your stuff. Get that money. What do you make of that?
Well, I can see how it went wrong for Elle. Actually, I think maybe I can't just say there was nothing wrong with what she did. I think you can poke holes in it, and maybe she was punching above her weight class as well in terms of her level of influence. And that's something that the owner of the hotel really jumped on. And it proceeded to blow up from there and turned into more and more of a miscommunication as well.
Ethan, it's the money thing, though, that I think is the ethical question, not the particular thing that happened between Elle and that hotel, but the practice. So I know that on your Facebook site, you say sometimes you're compensated for some of the work that you've done. BuzzFeed News are reporting that 93% of top celebrity Instagram ads aren't properly disclosed. So if I'm looking at your YouTube channel and I'm laughing my head off at a review, how do I know if you were given the product, if you were given a trip? How would I know? And do you need to tell me?
Yeah, I think it is good to tell your audience, just to keep the levels of trust, really. So you'll see one today on the Facebook page that was sponsored by UFC, a review of the fighter Yoel Romero. And in the top comment, I disclosed this is a sponsored video. In the post description on YouTube, I disclosed this is a sponsored video. You can do it more overtly and I guess really let people know, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to if it's a good fit. Like if the two brands work well together, you don't need to, I guess, self-deprecate too much and go, this is sponsored, everyone, this is sponsored. Don't panic about it. If you've made a good decision and the brands fit, then the ethics they're gonna be okay. I mean, with Elle's stuff, I don't know if she does hotel reviews. I don't know if the brand really fits. And that's where it kind of went wrong ethically, just to kind of tie it back with the actions of what happened, because the ethics are intertwined with that, I guess. But if the brand doesn't fit, it's going to backfire. I think it's kind of as simple as that. And I think disclosing it is good just to maintain trust. Some brands will say, don't disclose it. Others will say, do disclose it. Sometimes no one brings up the conversation.
So, of course, it is being brought up here, and that issue of trust is one that keeps coming up. This is what one person thought of it. This is Nia Imani on Twitter. She says, since millennials view my content the most, I know that they come to platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter in search of real opinions that commercials and ads don't offer. Therefore, I always ensure that I'm as transparent as possible. She goes on to say, people can tell when you're being genuine and honest, and they're more receptive and typically engage more when they feel like you're one of their friends versus a scripted advertisement. So I'm taking that in mind. Heidi, I've gone over here to your page, A Holiday Guide to Kuala Lumpur. And what's striking is right here at the very top, it says, this blog post is created in partnership with Uber. However, all thoughts and opinions are my own, as always. You don't always see that on posts. Why was that important for you to put there?
Like a lot of the people have said, I'm very transparent in what I do. We have a policy. Any products that I get over $250 that I post, I usually would declare that it's given or it's gifted. And any collaborations that paid is completely disclosed. There, and it's not even a vague thing where, thank you, blah, blah, blah. It's really, thank you so much and it's a paid collaboration. And I feel that's where trust is. My followers are not stupid. They can see through a sponsored post. So I'm not even going to try to pull wool over their eyes. I just go straight out and say it. And that's the best policy for me.
Serena, there's real money to be made. Who are you finding are doing the best deals or the most successful in terms of influencing their social media following?
In terms of brand, I think it often depends a lot more on a specific piece of content. So I personally feel that the kind of ads where you get an influencer to hold up your product in an Instagram post, that's not the most effective, I don't think. What we have to realise is that influencers are in a difficult position because they've often risen to the point that they're at because they walk this fine line between being aspirational but also relatable. Now, in order to be slightly aspirational, you have to have a life that's just slightly sparklier than your viewers have, but you have to maintain that level of relatability. And I think when people see influencers doing things like requesting free holidays or having huge collaborations with brands, that element of relatability gets lost and people get really angry because we really don't like the idea that influencers are making money from it. And this is where the double standard lies. Influencers time and time again are forced to say, I promise I'm not doing it for the views. I promise I'm not doing it for the money. Well, of course you're doing it for the money. It's a job just like any other. And in no other industry do we see this pressure on people to say that what they're doing as a job isn't actually something that they want to make money from.
Serena, I have to show you this. Guess I have to show you. This is from Influencer Marketing Hub. Micro-influencers versus celebrities. So that's pretty much anyone who's not as famous as Kim Kardashian. The ambitionista, Heidi, that's you. For each single post, you can get between 1,000 and 1,700 for each post. That is how much you're worth. Let me just put in Aussie Man Reviews. That's Ethan. Ethan, we're doing this on live TV. Let's see what happens.
Glad you forgot a Y.
Oh, Aussie.
It's going to fail.
Oh.
You're going to crash it.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, and the numbers are going round. Here we go. Oh my goodness, 1,155,000 to 1,900. That's pretty good. Wow.
Oh, on Instagram. Oh, all right. Yeah, I don't use Instagram that much.
Yeah, but that's how much each post would be worth if you wanted to monetize it.
And mine, of course, is a lot less than that. Yeah. But here's one person with knowing that, keeping that in mind. Here's one person who says, this is always and always will be about the money. So they're watching live on YouTube. They write, social media influencers are very ambiguous, it seems. They give the people freedom, but in reality, the main goal is profit, no matter what values are behind that. This is demand and supply. There's one person, though, we heard from in our community who disagrees. We got a video comment from a social media influencer and a blogger. I am Asya is her handle, and here's what she told the stream.
I've created a corner in the virtual world where women from all over can come together to share and discuss what's important to them. And I've done this by creating a hashtag called Words by Asia, where I share my own personal journey, my own personal struggles. The important thing about my platform is showing a different side to women. It's about peeling back those layers and allowing us all to come together in order to heal and empower one another.
So Heidi, she says this is about empowerment. This is beyond just endorsements. Take a look at her feed here, though. It is quite sparkly. This is I Am Asia on Instagram, just scrolling through. It's aspirational to the max.
I follow her.
You can see that you follow her. I'm sure lots of other people look 35.9 thousand people do as well. So Heidi, what do you make of her video comment she sent, though? This is more than just endorsements. It's about empowerment.
I completely agree. You know, I do make it a point to use my platform to empower, to inspire, and to promote causes that I do believe in. Yes, you know, I do have to make money to support the thing that is the Ambitionista, but it's not mutually exclusive to my goal of empowering and using my platform for, you know, causes that I do believe in.
We talked about the dark side, guests, a little bit earlier on when we were talking about this show. Is there a dark side to social media influencers? You may remember a young man called Logan Paul. He is a massive YouTube star. He did a video from Japan. It also featured somebody who'd committed suicide, and then there was obviously a big controversy about that. He's just come back online recently, and he talked about the experience. He said, sometimes I make mistakes. Is this the dark side, Serena? Is this sometimes where you have access to millions of people and they may well do things that are following you, and maybe you don't have any guidelines, you're just doing what you feel like?
That was a really tricky situation because I completely understand why people found it offensive. And I do think that we need to give people a toolkit in order to be able to approach these things sensitively. In journalism, as you know, we have incredibly strict guidelines around how suicide is reported, and for good reason. These guidelines don't exist for YouTube videos because it's such a new platform and a new form of media. I think, you know, a lot of the criticism was that he showed the body on camera, that he appeared to be making a joke, and that he had monetized the video, I believe, at least initially. And it seemed to be profiting from, you know, a really tragic event. I think, though, that, again, we come back to the same issue, which is he is trying to make a living by essentially putting himself in the public eye, which is what bloggers do. And occasionally you will come to situations which are thorny and difficult to pass. I don't think he necessarily made the best choice, but I think that the way that he was attacked and judged was unfair, and he was being held to a standard that wasn't really on a level with what we should expect from someone who's essentially creating reality TV by themselves.
Logan Paul said this, he posted this, have a look here on my laptop. I'm often reminded of how big of a reach I truly have, and with great power comes great responsibility. For the first time in my life, I'm regretful to say I handled that power incorrectly. It won't happen again. Let me just remind you, he has 16 million YouTube followers. Malika?
So I will end with this tweet from Moses because I think he sums this up quite nicely. He said, social media influencing has become the newest kid on the block career-wise, and the majority of the young are striving to become one. So hopefully they learned a few tips on what to do and not to do on this show.
Ethan Morel and Heidi, are there any top tips for other social influencers that you would say, I have learned this, don't do this or do this? You have 30 seconds each. Heidi, what should you not do, or what should you do?
I've learned that don't chase fame for the sake of fame. Actually do something that if it brings you fame and influence, you know, at the end, that's great. But it's never about just being famous. I wanted to build an online platform
never about
to
just
empower
being famous.
women.
Ethan, what's your tip?
Try not to get too caught up in the analytics and the numbers and the money. Remember why you do it. Remember why you love it. The internet is one big attention economy. Everyone's fighting for it. But try not to get too caught up in that.
Heidi, Serena and Brittany, thank you so much for being part of our show. We really appreciate it. The conversation continues at #AJStreet. See you online.